Modern society operates on a specific equation: human value equals output. We are conditioned to pursue success so relentlessly that stepping away from work, even briefly, triggers a deep sense of guilt. To survive in that environment, you learn to project an image of absolute competence. You hit your deadlines, maintain an active social calendar, and present a polished exterior to your friends and colleagues. But behind closed doors, that performance collapses. When you are finally alone, there is often nothing left but emotional emptiness, leaving you staring at the ceiling and going through the motions of life on autopilot. Because your external achievements do not match your internal exhaustion, your brain tries to find a culprit. High achievers routinely look at their own severe fatigue and mislabel it as a character flaw, convincing themselves they are simply being lazy. Laziness is a stable, lifelong trait, a person who has no desire to exert effort. If you used to be passionate and highly motivated, but suddenly find yourself emotionally collapsed, you are dealing with burnout. This maps the burnout epidemic. 75% of adults experience symptoms. The pleaser often develops in homes with overly protective, angry, or highly critical parents. To survive that environment, these children learn to suppress their own emotional needs to focus entirely on pacifying the adults around them. Decades later, that survival mechanism dictates their professional lives. These adults are terrified of conflict. They constantly read the moods of their coworkers and remain incapable of setting personal boundaries. Admitting they are struggling feels like letting someone down. Driven by that childhood conditioning, they spread themselves impossibly thin to keep everyone else happy, accelerating their own emotional breakdown. That explains how they interact with the world. But when working in isolation, high achievers rely on a different tool to force productivity. They weaponize their own internal monologue using a cognitive distortion called catastrophizing. This is the habit of predicting total, unrecoverable doom over minor everyday tasks. The logic follows that if you tell yourself that missing a single deadline will ruin your entire life, the sheer panic will force you out of bed. They believe that using fear against themselves is the only reliable way to eliminate risk. Operating as a constant hostage to your own fight-or-flight response has a devastating biological cost. Over time, that constant dread destroys the brain's physical capacity to experience hope, pleasure, or long-term motivation. Constant catastrophizing floods your system with cortisol, the body's primary stress hormone. Keeping the cortisol taps open too long depletes your chemical reserves of dopamine and serotonin. This chemical depletion pushes the brain past standard exhaustion into clinical depression, a state marked by an inability to find joy or pleasure in activities you previously loved. This grid visualizes the diagnostic point where exhaustion becomes a severe illness, using the 4 Ds of abnormality: deviance, distress, danger, and dysfunction. When your fatigue impairs your ability to function in everyday tasks, the boundary is crossed. At this stage, clinical depression is an involuntary biological system failure. It is not a mindset problem you can cure by brainstorming, and it cannot be overcome with new productivity hacks or willpower. You cannot work your way out of a biological deficit. A physical system broken by overworking cannot be repaired by applying more work. Healing has to start by immediately stopping the continuous release of cortisol. You have to help your body metabolize and burn off the excess stress hormones. That requires strict sleep schedules, rigid professional boundaries, and a diet rich in B vitamins, omega-3s, and magnesium. Psychological healing will fail if your physical body remains in a state of biological panic. Once the physical panic subsides, the psychological shift can begin. This means abandoning fear as a daily motivator and replacing it with small, desire-based goals. Undoing decades of ingrained pleaser habits and catastrophizing defense mechanisms is difficult to do alone. Reaching out to a mental health professional provides the framework to unlearn these routines. Your human worth is disconnected from your ability to flawlessly execute tasks while running on empty. Admitting to the struggle anchors your identity in something more durable than productivity. This focus on self-worth is what makes a sustainable life possible.